How's everybody doing today? It is Divnousbear, and I'm watching some Dr. K videos. I wanted to do some just chatting today, yeah, and I hope you guys enjoy. So let's see.
Like if I'm gonna go hang out with a bunch of my friends from high school that like are here for Thanksgiving, then it would be like, well, I don't want to not act. I don't want to be quiet. I don't want to not act like myself. I want to be me.
Yep.
And then that after that, it kind of becomes I'm overthinking, trying to be me almost.
Yep.
And
So-
then
Yep, so let's look at something else, right? So here's the other thing. What does the self-fulfilling prophecy do to the negative self-attitude?
it justifies it, makes it seem legitimate.
Plus, right? And then what happens is, so we're also going to call this your OCD self. And then there's your true self. And what happens is, like, anytime your negative self-attitude increases and the self-fulfilling prophecy increases, there's a fight between your OCD self and your true self. This is you saying, I'm not this way. This is not who I am. And the OCD self says, fuck you. This is exactly who I am. And see?
Right.
See?
And
By the way,
here's the proof. Look at what just happened.
Absolutely. And then so this conflict ends up leading to hopelessness. We haven't used the word hopeless yet.
I relate to a
What
lot
do you
of things
think?
he's saying.
Yeah, that's a great way to.
Earlier in the interview, he talked about
Especially a lot
like
of different moments.
Because, like,
just,
here's
how thought
Connor in
ruined
the
his
corner of
day.
your mind. He's fighting against this thing, and he's trying so hard. Connor. You've seen so many doctors and done so many different therapies, so many different.
I also relate to that.
And this fucker over here wins every single. And so no wonder you're right. So then the question becomes, okay, so like, what do we do about that? Right?
Like that negative self attitude, like that, like my true self looking at the negative self attitude, like that feeling of myself is what I see in the mirror. It's anything to do with me that I feel I'm not in control over, is that feeling, and then that leads to that hopelessness again in so many different situations.
All right.
Yep. So this is the cool thing, Connor. I know it sounds weird that I call it cool, but like in so many different situations. So this is what I want you to understand. It is the very reason that you feel attacked on all sides and you're struggling in so many different places. It's all one thing, which can feel overwhelming, but it's almost like, you know, like the one opening of the Death Star. Because the cool thing is that since this is all one complex in your mind, if you can pull the plug on one, you'll pull the plug on everything. So the very thing that makes you feel overwhelmed because it's happening in every single place actually means that there's like one common vulnerable spot. And if you can make progress, this entire thing is going to come tumbling down.
That makes me feel better, if anything, because over the years it's felt like it is so many different things that it's almost impossible to tackle.
Exactly. But the very thing is that feeling, the more impossible it is to tackle, bizarrely, the more possible it is to tackle. Because it's attacking you from so many different things. Dude, there may be something wrong with you, Connor. I don't really know. But I know there aren't that many things. Right? It just doesn't make sense. Like, sure, I'll give you this, but it's about intrusive thoughts. It's about urge for reassurance. It's about negative self-attitude and self-fulfilling prophecies and cycles. And if we change this, we'll give you a different diagnosis. That's all. And it can feel like all these different dimensions. When friends come over from Thanksgiving, when I go on dates, when I look at myself in the mirror, anytime I stream, anytime I go to college, anytime I do this, anytime I do this, it's one thing. And it comes down to this. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you a couple of tricks. Okay? Here's the first trick. Okay, questions so far?
No, that's a really good connection, because I'm just seeing the cycle in so many different things.
Yep.
Like, be it when I would wake up to go to school and I just wouldn't want to go, and I wouldn't really know why, but it would just be a cycle. If you need to go, you have to do your schoolwork. It's going. If you don't go to school, you're gonna have more work to do when you get back, and it's gonna be worse. And then just the cycle of, well, I don't care. I give up. I'm not going. And it piles on.
Yeah. So I want to just talk about that for a second. One of the worst things that we do to ourselves is when we know we need to do something that's good for us. There's a whole special kind of shittiness that we put ourselves in when we don't do the thing that we know we need to do. That strengthens this guy so much. When you know, every fiber of your being knows that you just got to go to school. Everything in your life would be better if you go to school. And then when you don't do it, the amount of self-hatred you buy yourself is immense. And this is the crazier thing. We think that the more important something is, the easier it becomes to do. But bizarre.
Oh, okay, yeah. So the video is about, he's interviewing another streamer. His name is Connor Eats Pants. And basically, so Dr. K is a Harvard psychiatrist that basically stepped down and focused, and he was doing it both at first, but he started making mental health streams and interviewing streamers. So he interviewed Asmongold, like Pokimane, all those. So basically, there's a lot of examples, but in this particular talk, they're talking about how basically when he's in a relationship, and it applies to other relationships, but particularly like a crush, like he'll need constant reassurance, and then he can't get rid of the thought, hi, what's going on, boo-boo? So ultimately what it seems to, and so he's been, this person, this poor streamer has been, he's pretty young, has been diagnosed with like anxiety, all these things, but it all comes back to kind of these intrusive thoughts, and even though he recognizes that they're intrusive, he can't do anything about it. So I'm just reacting to this video and wanting to talk a little bit about maybe some of my own mental health journey, but just to at least foster awareness and communication, because it's really, really, really important, like more than I ever knew. So here we go. I'm actually going to grab some water and let it backtrack a little bit for you guys so that you can kind of understand the current part of the conversation. So
Unless you
here
have
we
an
go.
issue with it. I'm
Starting
just
from the
thinking about
thought, when he
I
wakes up in the
understand, but I
morning,
think
she
there's,
doesn't
a
like
better
me.
thing we could call it, so I could try to like apply it to more things than just
it. Okay, sure. So let's call this the intrusive thought. How's that?
yeah.
Okay. And then what happens is logic. Logic fights, right? And logic is like, I'm a cool guy.
Yeah.
And then there's like a war, and then like the more you fight, the more this increases. And then eventually you run out of mana, and then you end up. We good? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Then what happens is then there's so then what happens is that you start to become someone. Start to become that which you, and this I'm going to call your negative self-attitude.
Right.
So this is the transcendent part, right? Just like we're saying the intrusive thought is like the part that is not specific, this is also not specific. This always happens. And then you notice changes to your behavior. Change to behavior. And then self-fulfilling prophecy. And then we can go all the way back. She doesn't. Make sense?
Yes. Yeah. And I'm seeing how I can apply that to different situations as well.
Absolutely. So,
Like for example, like at the top, it could be like if I'm gonna go hang out with a bunch of my friends from high school that like are here for Thanksgiving, then it would be like, well, I don't want to not act. I don't want to be quiet. I don't want to not act like myself. I want to be me.
Yep.
All right.
And then that
And we're back.
after that, it kind of becomes like overthinking, trying
Oh, I
to
forgot my water.
be me almost.
Oh.
And
So-
then-
Sorry.
Yep. So let's look at something else, right? So here's the other thing. What does the self-fulfilling prophecy do to the negative self-attitude?
it justifies it,
Absolutely.
makes it seem legitimate.
Plus, right? And then what happens is, so we're also going to call this your OCD self. And then there's your true self. And what happens is, like, anytime your negative self-attitude increases and the self-fulfilling prophecy increases, there's a fight between your OCD self and your true self. This is you saying, I'm not this way. This is not who I am. And the OCD self says, fuck you. This is exactly who I am. And see?
Right.
See?
And here's the proof. Look at what just happened.
Absolutely. And then so this conflict ends up leading to hopelessness.
Okay. So
We haven't used the word hopeless yet. But what do you think of it?
Yeah, that's a great way to how it's felt over the years,
Yep.
especially at a lot of different moments.
Because, like, here's Connor in the corner of your mind, and he's fighting against this thing, and he's trying so hard.
oof.
You've seen so many doctors and done so many different therapies and so many different medications. And this fucker over here wins every single time. And so no wonder you're right. So then the question becomes, okay, so, like, what do we do about that? Right?
Like that negative self attitude, like that, like my true self looking at the negative self attitude, like that feeling of myself is what I see in the mirror. It's anything to do with me that I feel I'm not in control over is that feeling. And then that leads to that hopelessness again in so many different situations.
Yep. So this is the cool thing, Connor. I know it sounds weird that I call it cool. But, like, in so many different situations, so this is what I want you to understand. It is the very reason that you feel attacked on all sides and you're struggling in so many different places. It's all one thing, which can feel overwhelming.
Okay. So this is kind of the end of an interview that I was been listening to. Dr. K is, I forget his full name, but he's often referred to as Dr. K, is at healthygamer.gg, and he interviews streamers. Healthy Gamer talks about, maintaining a healthy relationship and balance with video games. So that in and of itself is worth noting. This is a part of a series of interviews he's done with, streamers to talk about, their experiences and mental health. In this one, he hasn't really talked much about the streaming. They've been talking a bit, but, like, talking more about just intrusive thoughts. So,
But it's almost like, like the one opening of the Death Star. Because the cool thing is that since this is all one complex in your mind, if you can pull the plug on one, you'll
Hopefully
pull
it's
the plug on
working.
everything. So the very thing that makes you feel overwhelmed because it's happening in every single place actually means that there's, like, one common vulnerable spot. And if you can make progress, this entire thing is going to come tumbling down around.
That makes me feel better, if anything, because over the years it's felt like it is so many different things that it's almost impossible.
so now they're talking
Exactly.
about hopelessness.
But the very thing is that feeling,
Having
the
so
more
many
impossible it is
diagnoses,
to
that's
tackle,
incorrect.
bizarrely, the more possible it is to tackle. Because it's attacking you from so many different things. Dude,
So one of the things I want to mention is that, and something he was told in medical school was, if you get it from his supervisor or something, was basically that if you see a patient with 3 or more diagnoses, they're all wrong. So I thought it was really interesting, an interesting way to approach that, because it means that other doctors have only seen it from their perspective, right? Or that it's highly suspicious. So yeah, kind of cool. I can understand that and relate to that. So here we are, and let's see what is happening.
there may be something wrong with you, Connor. I don't really know, but I know there aren't that many things, right? It just doesn't make
Appreciate
sense. Like, sure, I'll give you this, but it's about intrusive thoughts. It's about urge for reassurance. It's about negative self-attitude and self-fulfilling prophecies and cycles. And if we change this, we'll give you a
I
different
think it's
diagnosis.
frozen, maybe.
That's all.
Okay, there we go.
And it can feel
Right.
like all these different dimensions. When friends come over from Thanksgiving, when I go on dates, when I look at myself in the mirror, anytime I stream, anytime I go to college, anytime I do this, anytime I do this. It's one
Yes.
thing. And it comes down to this. Okay, so now I'm going to teach you a couple of tricks.
So Dr.
So
K
here's the first trick.
is trained to be a
Okay,
Buddhist monk.
questions so far?
So it's I don't
No,
know.
that's-
I find his channel
That's
really
a really good
interesting.
connection. 'Cause
Before he
I'm
became a
just
psychiatrist.
seeing the cycle of so many different things.
Yep.
Like be it when I would wake up to go to school and I just wouldn't want to go. And I wouldn't really know why, but it would just be a cycle of you need to go, you have to do your schoolwork, it's going. If you don't go to school, you're gonna have more work to do and get back, and it's gonna be worse. And then just the cycle of, well, I don't care, I give up, I'm not going. And then it piles on.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna activate teacher mode for just a second. Pardon me. If I had to summarize this video and what we're talking about, it's to answer the question, what do we do about intrusive thoughts? Especially intrusive thoughts that ruin our day or ruin our self-image. Stretch! That this person doesn't like me, that this is happening. How do we handle that? And I don't know if you guys struggle with that, but there are definitely moments where I have or do struggle with this as well. So I think this is a really important conversation. So you can see the chart and how it goes. So
Yeah. So I want to just talk about that for a second. One of the worst things that we do to ourselves is when we know we need to do something that's good for us. There's a whole special kind of shittiness that we put ourselves in when we don't do the thing that we know we need to do. That strengthens this guy so much. When you know, every fiber of your being knows that you just got to go to school. Everything in your life would be better if you go to school. And then when you don't do it, the amount of self-hatred you buy yourself is immense. And this is the crazier thing. We think that the more important something is, the easier it becomes to do. But bizarrely, the more important, the more of a no-brainer it is to do something, the more paralyzed we feel.
I get that. I feel like I don't know how to explain it, but like almost like a pressure when something is that important and it interferes with my ability to do that more than something that I don't deem as important. And sort of the same idea, I guess, with relationships, right? Like, as it's not that, you know, I don't know how to explain this, but when it comes to like a romantic relationship or a partner, I get so in my head about it that it interferes even with that important thing, and then that leads to negative self-talk and things like that. And whereas when it feels less high stakes, but important, I'm in a like kind of a spot of joy, and I feel like I can be delightful and charming and empathetic and a good listener, lots of things, and all the things that I hope to and want to bring to like my, you know, my relationships, intimate, you know, etc. And as someone who's poly, I think this is especially important. But I don't know, like, you get through a certain spot, so I'm struggling. So when he talked about that earlier, because originally he thought he had romantic OCD, which or relation OCD, which I'm not sure that's like the right diagnosis, but you know, I'm not a psychiatrist. I would never. I related to that idea based on like the experiences that I've had in the past, and you know, how you can alienate the person by becoming too clingy or like right away or these things. And it's like the thing that's wild about that is that underneath it, I'm not clingy. Like I actually prefer my independence a lot of the time, but just because of the added stress, there's like this thought or feeling that I need to do this thing or that, and at least that's what he's talking about. And you know, I'll fess up that that's happened to me as well. I don't know if it's happened to others in relationships. Hi, Ursula, what's up, man? Welcome to the stream. We're having a little kiki, a little just chatting today, so I am very happy to be able to do this, and I'll do another stretch too. But yeah, just to kind of give you some context, and you know, go check out Dr. K's other videos. There's probably something that relates more to you. He's really cool.
But we think it's the exact opposite, and then we judge ourselves for that. We're like, it's a no-brainer. I have to go to school. It'll be easier for me tomorrow. I like going to school. I have fun once I go there. My friends are there. All of these different reasons. And we think that each of those reasons should inspire us to action.
Thank you.
But if we actually are scientific, we find that the more reasons there are for us to do something, the more paralyzed we are. And the more reasons that there are to do something, the more this negative self-attitude
Yeah, it's
grows.
not logical.
And the
right?
more
That's
this grows, the
it's
more
really
it
hard
holds
about
us back in everything.
In fact,
So
logic
you think
works against
that
you at this point.
A root, not a specific, like not that it's one thing, but something that might have built up over the years is that like I have no motivation to go to school, and I would build up that negative self-attitude, which then made that more of a factor in other areas of my life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that wasn't quite my problem.
Right.
So
And
definitely
absolutely,
different.
because now all it takes, it used to be school that would bring up your negative attitude. Now your negative self-attitude, all it needs is a fucking mirror.
Basically, like, things
There's
happen
nothing
that
in
brings
it.
reinforcement to the
There's no
negative self-attitude,
consequence.
which isn't true.
Does that make sense?
Right.
It's just a
Yeah,
piece
it's,
of glass.
it's really interesting stuff.
And you walk by, and if we really look at
Where that? Yeah,
the
I know. Right? As I'm
truthfulness of
like
what-
fucking
there's
checking
nothing,
it
there's
down.
nothing. And what you look in the mirror, what you see has nothing to do with the outside world. It comes all from you.
But that was quite.
There was a
good,
point
wasn't it?
Where it used to be with the outside, like in school, or maybe your first girlfriend, or whatever. But now this thing has gotten
thank you so
reinforced so much. It
much.
has
I really
a life of
appreciate
its
that.
own.
Happy
It's
Pride,
become a whole
mister.
different person that lives inside.
It's so kind of you.
And that's where the urge for reassurance comes
I
from.
really appreciate the bits. Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Can you illustrate that again really quick? So,
Yeah. So the urge for reassurance is because you have a fundamentally negative view of yourself.
So I try to reassure myself that's not the case.
Yep. And then, perfect, right?
Mhm.
So true self is where this comes from. Urge for reassurance comes from here. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, I mean that's a great way to picture it.
Because
I mean,
here's the thing.
I've
This
never really been able to picture. Like I do this in my head. Like I'm a very visual person. All my thoughts almost are like visual. If that makes sense. So
Yep.
when I try to analyze this in my brain, like I come up with this, but you're putting it down on paper makes it a lot easier to comprehend and to digest.
good. That's what we're here for, bro. We're just getting started, buddy. Okay. So the other thing to let you know is
Just
that
get
this
started.
is false.
Happy Pride.
Fundamentally. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
This
to you?
is false fundamentally. That is the important
It-
thing.
I
The
believe you,
negative self-talk
but-
is false
so, but
fundamentally.
how much I've dealt with it, it doesn't because it feels like such a fundamental part of how I think.
Yep. No, so it's true in a sense. and it's
Taking
false
blame
in
for
another sense.
things you're
But what I'm saying
that are
is
not your
the
fault.
urge is true.
The urge is true.
But this attitude
The
towards yourself,
content
because
is
you
not.
know this, because you say there are times where I know who my true self is. And if this is based,
The idea of the true self's really interesting to me too.
if this
right?
is
Like,
related, and we know that this is false, okay, then we know that like this can't be true. Does that make sense?
I don't know if you can
Yes.
see what he's drawing, but
Right? Because
yeah.
we sort of know, like you even said at the very beginning, if we talk about the nature of OCD, it's being unable to not believe things that you know are false. You know the thoughts in your head are wrong.
Yeah,
You just can't stop believing it,
that's true.
Yeah.
right? It's weird. We like you know you shouldn't believe it, but you can't help it.
Yeah, and then it gets to a point where I've dealt with it for so long that part of my part of me, part of my logic has almost given up to the point where I'm like, maybe it is right.
Yep.
Like, that's what I've done.
Ah, see, maybe it is right. There it is. What do we call that?
Hopelessness.
Beautiful.
Ha!
And just like you
This is for the bid. For the bid.
hold on. So now we're gonna tunnel down, okay? When you say the word dealing with it, that's what this is.
I can change the icon maybe later.
What do you think about that?
Off. Trying to
Yeah, I mean,
put
it's
some
fine.
heat on
Yeah.
some tender areas, basically.
Right? So it's the fight that leads to the
Help
hopelessness.
it stretch out. I don't know if y'all deal with
Because
this,
you
but
can't win against this.
fun. It's
So
a
what do
chronic
you
thing,
do?
but
And
it's
you
okay.
guys-
At least I found some good ways to
Well,
take care of
if it's the fight
myself.
that leads to it, then I imagine it's something to do with not fighting.
Beautiful.
That's it. That is
So
it.
this is in the East what we call acceptance.
Yeah.
Did you ever try acceptance and commitment therapy? Tact.
Aw, hun.
I
I understand, but
think it
listen
might
and
have
see
been
what,
part of my
at least
exposure
this way,
therapy.
Yeah, maybe.
of dealing with it.
So this is going to sound kind of weird. But like imagine, so what I want you to do is like your OCD self needs reassurance, right? Who does it need reassurance from?
Listen, I learned this recently.
Some factor that isn't myself.
That's
Incorrect.
wrong.
That's what you believe,
Right. That's what I mean. Yeah.
right? And just think about it. What you need is for these two dudes to party up.
Party
Because
on,
here's the
bro.
thing. At the end of the day, the reason your self-attitude increases is because you're beating yourself up. That's what this is.
Oops. No, I need to. They're
Say
called
again.
med packs,
The
right?
reason that your negative self-attitude
So I had
is
ordered this
increasing is
already, so I
because
wanted
you're
to try
beating
it out
yourself up.
before we talk.
'Cause there's
so
a
I'm
verse
gonna,
The urge for
try that
reassurance,
next.
the
It's
logic
pretty
is like,
good,
no,
but it has
bro,
some
don't feel that
drawbacks,
way. You're wrong.
especially for the cold. But for the heating, it's pretty good.
This is the problem. This is the problem. Because if you can reassure yourself, if instead of beating yourself up, you can reassure yourself, if you can provide comfort to yourself, then you don't need it from anyone else.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think
Ugh,
bizarrely, that's what
struggle.
you've started to do, whether you realize it or not.
I actually really
And what
think
I
this
mean
is
by
important
comfort
in the
Is
context
when you
of
start to
streaming
just
too.
notice things without
For the
reacting.
mental health of
So I
both
don't know that you've
streamers
gone as far
and
as
their
providing comfort.
communities,
What I
because
think you've started to do at the least is just let this thing be without fighting.
explain my thought for a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you started to notice, okay, my true self is over here, my false self is over here, so be it. I'm going to win some, I'm going to lose some.
Yeah.
So this
But
in a way is talking
when
about
you say
accepting
that,
the
you're
right
not
thing,
fighting.
right? Not just anything. Oh, maybe I'm mistaken.
Yeah. So, are you saying that that's right or wrong?
How does it feel?
It kind of feels like I'm stuck in limbo.
Okay. So that's good. Because stuck in limbo is the first step to changing a downward spiral.
Okay.
Right? You got to be neutral for a while. And I think that's what I said. I don't think you've learned how to comfort yourself. You've learned how to stop fighting. Which, if we think about it, fighting, like we said, what does the logic do to the urge for reassurance?
No. Well, yeah, it depends what you're going for. For my joint
it's-
pain, I find heat is the very best thing because
It,
I need to
gives
be
me
able to get rid of like the
reassurance and,
fluid
like,
buildup and
I
stuff.
try to give myself reassurance.
So
And what does it do?
it helps things to
It-
flow and move.
Counters it with.
Yep.
I've been
with
told the same thing
negative
with physical
self-attitude.
therapy.
And so the logic, the answer that I'm looking for is we kind of talked about this earlier, but like, remember that the logic in a weird
And
way,
it's like 3 minutes
feeds your
cold, 30
urge for
minutes heat is
reassurance.
what they
the
recommend.
more you fight against it, the harder it pushes back.
So the fight between the negative self-attitude and the true self is almost the same as the urge reassurance against the logic.
You're damn right it is. And
Huh.
that's why we have these two arrows.
Nice. Oh,
Right?
you meant on here
Yeah.
there's a lot of arrows for you. I'm
Yeah.
so down to swallow.
And then
Yeah,
what happens
he's-
is then you go,
he's
ooh,
drawing it
after
all
fighting
out
this for a
with
while,
charts
you're
and
exhausted,
graphs,
and then
right?
you just
That's
give in to
right.
all this crap.
Yes.
And so what I
Oh,
want you to
shit.
think about is
It's
like,
the right
imagine
reaction.
like I don't know if you've ever
Well,
exercised with a punching bag,
followers, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
but like, you know, the harder you hit a punching bag, the harder it swings
I
back.
do have
That's
it.
just
It's
the
just
nature.
chatting. Thank God.
And that's how your mind works.
What's caving in?
So the harder you push against yourself in your mind, the harder your mind pushes back. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction.
It's interesting.
Energy is
Like,
neither
it's a
created nor
metaphor,
destroyed.
but it seems to be true.
If I take a neutron and I
I'm not
split
sure,
it, I
actually.
wind up with a proton and a neutron.
Probably.
This is like a
Thought.
universal principle.
Oh my God. I don't
And
think
so
you
when
want
people
my
talk about
joint fluid.
acceptance,
I'm
like
just
if
gonna,
I
I'm just
hit like
gonna
a punching bag
take
and
a
the punching
gander.
bag swings back and smacks me, what can I do to like stop the punching bag from smacking?
don't punch the
Stop
punching
it.
bag.
Absolutely. And even then, if you want, if it's swinging wildly back and
His
forth,
chat's
because you've been hitting
going
it for a
crazy.
while, what do
Bro,
you need to do?
stop the physics metaphors, please.
Step away from it.
Step away for it or hug
Oh
it,
my fucking God.
right?
So
when it
that's
hits
like
you, you
destroy
wrap
the
your arms
punching
around
bag.
it and go for the ride.
Right.
And you stay with it. You accept it. You embrace it.
Radical acceptance.
So what does
seems
that mean in the
similar to
context? Because getting lost in a bit of an analogy.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So we can't stop this. We can't stop this. We can stop this.
You
So what
suck
that
a lot.
means,
I
what I
missed
want you to
that
practically
entirely.
do is like the next time you like look at yourself in the mirror, can you see yourself on stream today?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Alright.
we're gonna do this
Keep
like
watching.
meditation. I guess we're gonna do it. So
No, it's okay. I'm just exposing you to a little bit of Dr.
I'm gonna
K.
stop.
This is maybe the best
Screen share,
example,
okay?
but it's
Okay.
still an important
so
issue.
we're gonna
I'll be
try
back.
right now.
So,
We're gonna teach you how to
when
do
we get
this.
to a practice
this
and
moment.
less abstract,
Can you see
but I think
yourself?
it's better as time goes
So I want
on.
all you guys to kind of try to do this.
That was a really long
If you load yourself
explanation.
into the practice. Okay, I want you to. So what we're gonna do is like I'm gonna ask you to look at yourself in a second, and when you look at yourself, I want you to notice this like programming that starts off. You're gonna feel like all these negative thoughts, and then what's gonna happen is that a voice automatically is gonna come to your defense, and it's gonna be like, no man, that stuff isn't true. Like Connor's a great guy. Okay, and then they're gonna start to war, and you're gonna try to suppress one. Don't do that. Sit with both of those things. And I want you to be like referee between those two things. And understand that Connor is allowed and has a good reason to feel the way that he does. We don't want to teach you that we're wrong. You're wrong. We want to teach you that you're right, and it doesn't mean what you think. Right? So like if I have a kid who like, you know, they're
reframing sort of.
let's say they're like making a cupcake and they mess up the icing. I don't tell the kid, yeah, you messed up the icing. You didn't mess up the icing. No, the icing is fine. Everything's is great. I tell them, yeah, you screwed up the icing and it's not the end of the world.
There you go.
What you need,
Not
Connor, is for
deny
your
it.
true self to reassure your negative self.
That's okay.
It's not that your negative self is wrong. It's just that all of the thoughts and conclusions that your mind comes up with about
You don't have sound?
the premises
Do you not hear
which
either?
happen to be true, that's what we need to let go.
What do you mean by that? So the thoughts that I'm almost let my
Do you hear me? Oh my gosh.
thoughts must feel like conclusions. That
Yep.
makes sense.
Yeah, so that's what you need to tease apart, right? So we'll see this in the moment when I ask you to look at yourself. But like you're gonna look at yourself
Sorry,
and you're
guys.
gonna say like, okay, like my face is whatever. And then what's gonna happen is your mind is gonna jump to a conclusion. Therefore, no one will ever. And then what I want you to do is almost be like an older brother to yourself. And be like, hey man, like let's be honest. You're not the best looking guy on the planet.
Oop.
And just because you're not the
And
best
that's
looking
okay.
guy doesn't mean that you're going to be alone for the rest of your life.
Same. There you go.
But I'm going to give you that you're not the best looking guy. That's cool.
Right.
I'm not gonna argue with
He's
you.
telling him to talk to himself.
You can have that.
Anyways.
I'll take the L. But can we just accept you anyway? Can we say that I'm ugly and like I'm actually a pretty cool guy? Can the true self and negative self, that part of you that you know you are, the part of you that looks at the false self and says, that isn't me, instead of the two of y'all fighting, can both of y'all coexist?
I guess like part of me doesn't want to like accept that the negative thought is true.
Yep. There's your
There you
problem.
go.
Because that's the origin of the fight. Because remember,
I don't want to look at myself in the mirror and just be every time be like, yeah, you're ugly.
no, we're not.
No, definitely
We're not accepting that you're ugly.
Mama.
se. So this is where, remember when I asked you. Okay, so I'm gonna.
We're like,
back to
I
this for a
think
second.
I know you are having the
remember when I
thought
asked
that you
you-
think you're ugly. We could have made that more efficient, but you get the idea.
Is this false or true?
And it's okay.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
The urge for reassurance is true.
The things
not that
that
you're
you think
actually
that
ugly.
means.
What's true is that you feel it.
There you go. He said it better than me.
Okay.
And your true self can let your OCD self feel that they're ugly.
There you go.
Like, hey man, I get that you
know,
think you're
if
ugly.
you feel that, that's okay.
I'm not going to try to convince you that you're not, but I
know it's
understand that you
emotional, so I'm
feel
not
that.
gonna try to convince you. But it's gonna be.
Does that make sense?
You know, that's
That makes sense,
reassurance.
yeah.
There's
When
lots of
you
ways
took
to
the
do
Big Brother
reassurance.
analogy,
You
I
have
was
to do
like-
whatever
I
works
was
for
viewing
you.
that as almost the objective truth, I guess.
No, it's not about
Yeah.
it's not about the objective truth, because like this is the thing. It's the search for objective truth that is the source of the conflict.
Interesting.
Because the OCD self says I'm objectively true, the true self says I'm objectively true, and then they fight about
so
it.
rationality.
Forget about objective truth.
I don't know if this is making sense. I've done a lot of
What you're going to
mental
do
health
is
stuff,
learn how to
but it's
accept
okay.
yourself,
Not
even
just-
if you're wrong.
get a baseline. You know.
Okay.
It's not about right or wrong. It's about accepting both sides.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna try it, and then we'll see if this like works for you. Okay, so now can you see yourself? Can you maximize your?
I'll definitely try it off stream as well.
Okay, sure.
I imagine in my own like environment it'll be easier than knowing I'm in front of people. But
Good. So we want it. We want it when it's harder, not when it's easier.
Yeah.
Okay, so just maximize your own image. Give me a window into your mind. Let me see.
so immediately like I'm sort of critical about like how my mouth moves, how I see myself,
Yeah. Apparently, he doesn't stream
Almost
with
like-
camera very much.
looking at myself and like
That's
thinking
really
in my
interesting.
thoughts negatively.
Okay, so close your eyes for a second, and
Okay.
just watch all of that negativity arise. Okay, so like all that stuff could be true. We're not here to find objective
Oh.
truth. Do you see your response to it?
It's kind of just there. I'm like all those thoughts are there and I'm observing them.
So just watch them. What happens to you?
I just feel like uncomfortable. I guess.
Okay, good. Tell me what that discomfort feels like. Where do you
It
feel?
feels like those thoughts are becoming true to me.
Okay, so watch them become truer and truer to you.
Nice.
What is it like for them
Nice.
to become
This is
Just kinda get more
something. Do you disagree or what?
down, I
It's
guess.
fine.
true? Good. So notice those feelings. That you feel sad. That there's a part of you that feels sad because it believes this thing to be true. Right? And what do you want to do to the part of you that feels sad because it's like destined to whatever?
I want to like fix it.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's what you have to let go. You see, that's your reaction. So there's this whole channel, eyes closed, and looking. There's this whole channel of thoughts. Oh, my mouth is moving weird. And then, like, those thoughts gel into truth, and then they create a sense of sadness. And then along comes the true self. No, no, no. We shall not be sad. We shall triumph and be victorious and live a life of happiness.
Victory.
And what you're doing in that moment is bullying the negative.
Oh yeah, well this is coaching. Okay, so
You're
it's
telling
important
me your feelings are
to
wrong.
distinguish it. Oh, I like it.
Bad
like
negatives.
not normally,
That's
but
not
with
what
Dr.
we
K,
want.
I like it.
Because there's a part of you that's afraid.
And he gets
that if you,
better
if
later,
you accept it and you stop
honestly.
fighting, then what's going to happen?
I understand where you're coming from.
That everybody else will look at me weird and nobody will like me because I'm not making any effort to make myself presentable or good in any way.
So that too, that's coming from the negative self. You see that? Those thoughts are again from the negative self. So now what's happening when you want to make yourself be happy and not let yourself be sad? You doing okay?
Aw,
Mhm.
well,
Okay.
I mean,
So this is what
I do
happens is
feel
like
that.
imagine I'm hitting the punching bag and I hit the punching bag really hard and it swings back at me really hard. What do I need to do? I need to hit it again to make it go away.
Yeah.
Right?
punch
And so
at it.
when you try to chase after happiness and you don't want to accept the possibility of sadness, you hit back further. And then it swings back.
Oop.
And you keep on
Sound
doing
is
that,
working
keep on
or
doing
no?
that until you run out of mana. And then it smacks you in the face. And then you
Yeah, it is right.
because it's your very own energy. So you don't want to okay, so like so
Yeah,
you could be
it's
sad.
really frustrating. I
Yeah.
get that. There's a huge shortage of mental health workers.
Sorry, with my eyes closed, my thoughts move so fast and it's hard to focus.
That can
Okay,
happen.
so go ahead and open them then.
Okay.
So
Yeah, can you repeat that?
so so you may be sad. What do you think about that?
So sad.
Doesn't feel good.
sad.
Okay.
And it's what I said. Like there's that instant desire to fix it.
So that too, I want you to notice that desire to fix it. That desire to fix it actually doesn't come from the true self.
Okay.
But notice that desire to fix it and just let it be there. And now I want you to think about the person that you are when you're streaming. Who is that? Does that person try to fix anything?
Not in the same way.
Absolutely. Right? So
It's
when
not. It's not self-critical. It's more problem solving. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. I think it's very
Tell me what you need.
There's a difference
that's not
between
the
trying to
song.
fix something.
Oh, you
and
want a
trying to
ginger
build
beef
something.
burrito, huh? Okay.
I think your streaming self doesn't think that anything is broken. You're just striving for more. Right? It's about effort and growth, not about repair and security. It's
Yeah.
offering the best of what you have.
The best of the best.
Right. And so when I'm not doing that, I feel like I'm almost always in a state of trying to reassure myself and make myself feel justified, I guess.
Absolutely. Right? So now what you need to do is like notice those two modes of operation. And the instinct, now you have to be really careful. The instinct is going to be, let me adopt the streamer mode of operation.
Yeah.
Let me do things this way instead of doing things that way, which is falling into the same fucking trap.
Right, because
Ooh.
I've tried that.
There we go. It's the same trap. Not going to work. Just let yourself sit in the sadness and acknowledge for a moment that you're allowed to be sad. You're allowed to be bummed. That there's a part of you that wants very hard to take this suffering away. And it is when we try to protect ourselves from the suffering that life gives us that we trap ourselves the most.
Right, because like when I am feeling good, like those thoughts aren't even a factor. That makes so like during my day to day, my appearance and how other people perceive me is a factor that I'm constantly at war with.
Yep.
In this cycle. But when I'm feeling my best, that's not even a second thought. So I'm not on camera. I'm not. I feel like I'm separated.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah, even
Yeah.
when I was crisis, took me like
It feels like
a
reality.
while to get
So
there.
that separation comes from
Once you get
observation.
in, though, just remember, as long as you keep appointments,
Pretty
you're in. So,
So you
it's
can't
worth getting
be
on a
separate from
list.
something. Anything that I observe
for
must
sure,
be
I
separate from
understand that.
the seer and the seen cannot be the same thing. When I look at myself in the mirror, what am I looking at? Am I looking at myself?
No, you're looking at a reflection.
Beautiful.
Huh.
If you want to create separation, Connor,
No, of
just
course.
see it.
Absolutely. That's pain in the
And the
ass.
separation will be there.
If
You
you can
have
ever
told me that
afford
for you
it,
to
there are
be
other ways of
free of
doing
this
therapy that
you
are
need to be
without
separate.
insurance. Or one time I even
You-
had to deal with a
starting
therapist
like separate
based on
again?
income. So
You tell me, because you're the fucking
know.
one who said it. You
Right.
said
you gotta
remember what I just
have
said.
access to
Okay,
that.
that's good.
That's
So go back and watch the bot. But
Yeah,
basically, you're
I
telling me that
know.
when you're off camera,
fly a
you're
bitch
separate.
out. I'm just
These
kidding.
thoughts don't even affect you. They're not a factor,
Right. Yeah.
right? And so there are moments of time where you have a vairagya,
A what?
detachment,
Just like
separation.
Viagra for a second.
It's not like vairagya. That's the Sanskrit word for detachment. When your thoughts are not reality, they're just thoughts. And the way that you create that separation is through observation. Not trying to fix it, because fixing it is getting into it. Just watching it happen. And when you watch it, because like this is me. And then like if I see it, like it has to have distance. So when I ask you to stop and observe the urge and observe how you want to fix it, it'll naturally dwindle over time.
Okay.
And what you
I
found,
see what you're saying.
what you found is a shortcut
Give a little whistle.
to that dwindling process, which
Give
was
a little
streaming.
whistle.
And now we get to the idea of an escape, because when you're
And
streaming, you're your true
always.
self. And how does that work? That's because
Oh, okay.
you're free from all of these thoughts.
That's cool.
I'm free from the physicality. I'm free from like the fear of like actual consequence, I guess. 'Cause it's easier to feel separate when I'm in front of a screen, I guess, even though there is obviously more consequence now that it's my career. But like, especially when I first started, like when I first started streaming, like it felt like a complete disconnect.
Yeah. And so now here's the cool thing. So I think that that's true. And at the same time, you found a solution to this problem that is not actually controlled by you. It's a circumstantial thing.
Right.
When you
And that's
stream-
kind of
That's why people call it an escape. So now what you need to do is learn how to separate yourself in every moment of every day. And then all of those cycles will start to fall. Same thing needs to happen for all of them. Doesn't matter. Notice the
Beautiful.
intrusive thought. Ah, fuck.
You
Here we
love the
go.
tortilla. It's like
It's like if
getting
you're
like
terrified of
curly.
a roller coaster and you hate being on it, you might as well throw your hands up in the air and scream and try to enjoy it. That's what you need.
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, the intrusive thought comes. The urge comes. Here I go, trying to fix it again. Can I hold back from trying to fix it? No, I can't. Okay, here we go.
Here we
There's me
go,
fighting.
here we
There's me
go,
fighting. There's
here
me
we
fighting.
go again.
Ran out of mana. Ooh, there's that
Here we
clinginess.
go
Oh man, that
again.
clinginess comes up. The sadness comes up. The fear comes up.
Yeah.
And then, oh, here I go texting. Oh shit. Here I am judging myself for texting.
Sure.
Here I am
The thing-
seeing.
Yeah. The thing
see-
about that is like even like that cycle is so prevalent that like even if I text something that almost is like completely fair and like isn't even doesn't even come from a place of like reassurance, immediately after I become self-critical and that cycle starts of well, what if it was? What if you thought? What if you didn't even realize that that was a negative, like a negative reassurance?
Great. So then what you do is you and
These
before you send the
terms,
text
right?
message.
They
True
are
Connor says-
doughy AF.
All right, we're about to send this. Connor, prepare yourself. You want to send this in this moment because you think things are going to get better. Prepare yourself for the backlash. Prepare yourself for cycle 2. Hit the text button. There's the intrusive thought. There we go. Just like you said. And watch it happen to yourself. You know it's coming. Watch it happen. Let it happen. If you feel like fighting, fight.
Let it
Fight
happen.
with awareness. And I guarantee you, Connor, whatever you've been doing for the past couple of months that's helped a little bit, you continue doing this mindful practice, this will start to dwindle.
Yeah, you should.
What did you mean by fight with awareness exactly? Because I thought I was trying to not fight.
Yeah, I was
If
thinking
you
about
can't
that.
help but fight, at least acknowledge that you're fighting
You're going to lose.
and that it's the
Just
wrong
kidding.
thing to do, and let yourself.
There you go. Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Because the more awareness you create, I'm not aware of anything. What's on my board? I can't see.
Oh.
in order to see it.
Una reunión, no?
This is awareness. This is bringing something. When you're not awareness,
This is the gay
is
agenda.
watching something from the outside. So the more that you become aware, the more separation you create, and then you become something called detached. What have I got? Which is when you say it isn't a factor anymore. That is fire.
But
So people like ask me like, don't you have sadness and all this kind of shit? Do I have anxieties and all that sort of stuff? Sure, I'm no different from any of this. The only difference is that it's not a factor.
Yeah.
Every time
It's like a kind of like that's sort of where I've been learning, like where I've been at over the past year that I talked about most of the stuff in terms of like spiritual kind of consciousness, self versus
Yep.
thoughts. Like that's pretty much what you're saying.
Yep. And so here's the cool thing. What has happened to your suffering the more you become aware that there is a consciousness that is separate from your thoughts?
It's become easier. I've been able to observe that the negative isn't necessarily objective.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's become easier. So what I'm telling you is every moment of awareness is leveling up your consciousness. And the more your consciousness levels up, I kid you not, this shit is OP. This is what Buddha was talking about. When he was talking about enlightenment,
this shit is OP.
is when awareness
Buddhism.
becomes
I love
100%. And then suffering ceases to exist. Sadness exists, pain exists, emotion exists, hurt exists. Suffering does not.
Do you guys get the context of that? I don't know how much you know about Buddhism, but one of the lines of thought is that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, which has been adopted in various ways. But basically, the idea of it is that, sure. He's a streamer. I mean, as well, he's streaming on Twitch, so I expect that. But what I was saying is that the idea is that suffering is when we add to our pain, right? So, and it's not that we should judge ourselves for it. It's just important to recognize it, that there is our pain or what's happening, right, to the body. And then on top of it, we can add anxiety or ways to make the pain worse. And that could be emotional pain. That's probably more commonly how this applies. So yeah, I started learning about this from a group called Refuge Recovery, and here we go. Let's continue. My armor. It's
It really is.
right here, guys. Oh,
Because I can see like areas where that's just like,
There we go. Questions?
He's definitely
any
still learning as a
questions?
psychiatrist
I think
or
I'm
like
gonna,
as a
like rewatch, re-listen.
as a coach what to say, but
Live.
his later ones get really good.
Absolutely. It's a slow road. So let me tell you one or two other things. How old are you, Connor?
I'm 21.
Okay. Young. Yeah.
Okay,
I turned 21 2 weeks ago.
could be.
So let me tell you, this journey is going to take you a couple of years. It's going to get better over time. I don't know if you're ever truly going to be quote unquote free from this, but I do think you can get free on a level that will blow your mind. I think
Yeah,
part of it
definitely
is
did
like,
mine.
here's what I've come to understand is even the search to get better is an attachment.
That's true.
And that to accept that you won't be better is actually like a really, really important milestone.
This is why
To
I
accept
react the way I do
accepting
sometimes.
that,
I
like-
love that. I have to interject. Okay, as someone that deals with chronic pain, while I appreciate the sentiment and the feeling and the well wishes of somebody that says, well, get well soon or get better, you know, I hope you feel well soon. How do you respond when you know that I want to feel better tomorrow, but it doesn't mean that it goes away, and you want the other person to sort of recognize that as well and to validate the fact that you've accepted that this isn't easy, right? It isn't like I can just go take a Tylenol and it's gone, right? It's like, or the rest even, and it's gone. It doesn't work like that. That's the crazy part.